Yeah, so I wake up this morning and I see a message, and it's Access Rattblood. Are you here, Rattblood?
And then you got people like Access, and then you got people like Access, and then you got people like Access.
I'm Access fucking Rattblood.
Access Rattblood, I see. All these Access people, I'm starting to get paranoid about that now. I don't know what to do about it.
And then you got people like Access, and then you got people like Access, and then you got people like Access.
Are you here, Rattblood?
I'm Access fucking Rattblood.
Access Rattblood, most abundant and successful king hero that we are all sitting at this very moment. Are you willing to accept that as a truth? That you are a worthy man and that your penis is okay?
All these Access people, I'm starting to get paranoid about that now. All these Access people, I'm starting to get paranoid about that now.
Are you here, Rattblood? I'll just start throwing spells at you, conjuring demons and otherwise. Are you here, Rattblood? I'll just start throwing spells at you, conjuring demons and otherwise. Are you here, Rattblood? I'll just start throwing spells at you, conjuring demons and otherwise. Are you here, Rattblood?
Who the fuck is Access Rattblood?
I'm Access fucking Rattblood, bitch.
All these Access people, I'm starting to get paranoid about that now. I don't know what to do about it.
I'm Access fucking Rattblood. Hello, friends and enemies of YouTube. This is the Axis. Tonight, we'll be having a guest, and in between then, I will be discussing the reformation of the cult of Axis, demeanor and etiquette, and the approach to if you want to deliver a successful platform, then conduct yourself as though you were successful. And with that, I wrote my daughter a little song, and I just released her second to last performance on my main video channel.
Each of you must distinguish for himself between the scenes of cold reality and those of pure illusion. Each of you must distinguish for himself between the scenes of cold reality and those of pure illusion. Each of you must distinguish for himself between the scenes of cold reality and those of pure illusion. Each of you must distinguish for himself between the scenes of cold reality and those of pure illusion.
Is a good angelic being named Lucifer, which means light bearer. So you have this figure that becomes separated. He falls and becomes evil, and of course, with that developing doctrine, or say you have a developing doctrine of hell and punishment. Tell me this, what happens to people God hates?
They go to hell.
What would be the purpose of God punishing people for all eternity?
Because he wants to, because he can.
When you're in power and you feel your power is a little bit fragile, it's contested, it's under threat, then you need a very big stick to threaten those who threaten you. I mean, what bigger threat is there than hell?
Because the only way to get rid of evil is to get rid of evil people. Who among us will be left? What would be the purpose of God punishing people for all eternity?
Because he wants to, because he can.
God has those who are his children and he has those who are not. So he creates certain people knowing for sure they're going to eternal damnation.
Dominus convictus, Satanus convictus, Demonus convictus, Mortis convictus.
Tell me this, what happens to people God hates?
They go to hell.
Who do you think you are? You're not God, you're just a man.
Where's the thing?
Good evening, guest. And how's everyone this evening?
Oh, how's it going?
It's changing the weather. Really stuffs me up. I guess, allergies. So, quite the conflict.
Cats. You can't have cats. The litter box is just too much for me to. I just no.
I can barely hear you. You're just cutting in and out.
Oh.
No. Can't hear
Hey,
you at all.
Access. Hey, Access. Hey, Leslie.
Hey, Dominic.
Is it your mic, Leslie, or?
Well, no, the mic worked fine.
Okay, you're coming through a little better there.
I was just in settings. No, I'm coming back.
Okay, that sounded a little better.
Yeah.
There we go. Well,
I've been.
Go ahead.
I've been at war. Involves a lot of removing or I don't know, like stay very, very clean. Because the micromanagement entities that run, I call them like biobots, but they're just like technology from the negative thought forms who run this place, right? So there's I've had to like be guided by my soul group. They let me know what I need to do to protect myself, and with the higher expanded awareness, it's much easier for me to perceive than someone who is still under the control of the mind, and the mind forms beliefs. And really, if you look at it, why trust anything here? Why take any of it for the truth when it is just like in your endeavors of discovery? Some have finished their discovery and have raised and expanded their awareness so that you get the best of both worlds. You know, you get your soul group who is 100% aware and conscious. They would know better than I. So I take their lead. I sense them, I feel them, they feel like me, the same energy. And you have to align with your own energy, that your real self, down to your soul level. I have been in my true form rather than the avatar. And I felt like I was suffocating. I felt a real urgency to get released from the force field or something that I can't move. And I have an urgency to get back there and do the thing to unplug, because I saw my energy being siphoned out like a big, huge, round area. It was just like draining right out of me. And I feel weaker, like it's affecting me. So I don't.
Right. I tend to take things for fact. If it's not a fact, if it is not a learned experience that is personal and private to myself and cannot be displayed to others, or if I can't represent it through some type of system of proof, then to me it's no better than somebody describing a drug trip or somebody
Testimony
describing.
is proof enough, though, Access.
Okay,
Because
I don't put words.
experienced.
I don't put stock in people's words unless it's provable. It's just an
I'm
experience
not
that they
putting
went through.
anything on you. I'm just sharing my experience, my understanding of things.
Yeah, and it's no different than someone explaining a drug trip. You weren't there. I wasn't there. Or you were there. I wasn't there. Wasn't nobody else there. So I mean, it's kind of difficult to relay such things in a comprehensive way. That's why I avoid them, unless it's something that I can tangibly give to somebody else with some foundation that they can at least allude to or resort to for further understanding or even their ability to develop that within themselves to obtain such a state of being or a duplicatable system of procedures that can also prove it to be
Well, I wanted to ask
tangible
you
and
something.
real.
I wanted
Sure.
to ask you something. What is so is it not desired for everyone, who is like aware enough to know that there's something at least, that's not quite right. So, like haven't anybody ever came to the conclusion that we don't really know who we are? If we have amnesia, then the most common solution is to raise one's awareness level.
Well, I think that's a personal and individual journey. And as far as a need to share, just because I'm aware of certain things, no. I make that very abundantly clear that
Well,
there's a
what
lot of
if there is
information.
wisdom at the end of it? Wouldn't you desire to have like the wisdom that really matters? Like I've experienced
Are you asking me whether I would want that wisdom or whether I would want to share that wisdom?
whether you would want to be able to like a small portion would be like to be able to read people, read their, like, your perception would be on steroids, you know? Like, just, you
So
would
does
just
the
know.
punishment that come along with it. Yeah, it's a gift, but there's also punishments that come along with it. None one is affects and desires. You don't
But
get
you
one
have to
without the other.
learn and where you are before you can proceed.
Not me personally. Whether I want to take somebody else where I'm at, I would have to give them a set of instructions. But to be where I'm at, no, that's been a solo endeavor. And I stand here in a solo state. This is my journey, my adventure, and, this is my endeavor. I don't expect anyone to possibly understand or comprehend the full extent of where I've been, what I've done, or what I've experienced. Nor do I care
Well,
that they do.
good for you. Right. Haven't heard from them. I haven't chatted with you before.
Dom's with us. He usually presents himself pretty well once he finds a kind of a segue to come in, and it gives him room to speak.
Yeah, well, I was down there for a few minutes in chat. I didn't chat, but I just didn't see anybody up here, so I just popped in.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't discourage anybody that has, respect. Like I said, respect and a type of etiquette to present themselves in the social arena. Always welcome.
All right.
But, that's not to say that those that do not know how to present themselves in such a way, I have little tolerance of patience for anymore, if any at all.
Sounded like Access the way you titled it and what I heard a little bit on chat. Sorry, on your intro, you were going to talk about a channel, how to conduct oneself. If you don't mind elaborating.
Yeah, it's about procedure, etiquette, general social, basically discriminant behavior on a productive side, and the energy that can be applied to such, less than friendly and less than acceptable platforms when they're trying to host somebody. And I've found that, even here recently, I quit going to several platforms. Two of them, because when I would go up on the panel to relay information of a serious nature or even relevant to the conversation, they would want to put up one of their trollish oppositions just for the sake, the satire and the humor of it, because to them this was funny, and this seemed to be their mode of operandi when that comes to me, two channels in particular. And I figured, well, if that's the type of interaction you want to have with me, then I can get really satirical, and I can get just as demeaning as they seem to be coming across. Or I can teach somebody how to have some proper etiquette, show by example, and possibly teach people that engaging in such a channel that seems to offer to have something intellectual to pass forward as information is a good thing. I have no problem with that. But when you start at the expense of people who are coming up on the panel to share information that corresponds with whatever message you're delivering, and you want to make a ass-end satire out of it by introducing a less than humorous troll into the mix just for the sake of the chemistry that isn't going to be there, then you shouldn't do it at my expense, because now it's a rebound thing.
I was like looking at your station, I mean your channel, and it's like, it's kind of like a scary one.
Good. Hopefully it's frightening as hell.
Rattblood. Now, what's the story behind that? I have no idea. I was listening to that one song and it talks about it, but I still don't get it.
Probably not. And not many people
Is
do.
sacrificing like rats or something?
Sure.
The blood of the rat? I don't know. There's the year of the rat.
Well, you keep trying to associate it, and I'll let you know when you get there.
Is it a puzzle? Really? Well, I saw you on Z show first.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried diligently to
You
give
were
him.
talking about your son down there.
Yeah, tried to give him room for I don't know, a little elbow room to exercise what I have to offer, and 3 times in a row he turned it into a satire fiasco. And this last time I didn't allow it to happen. He thought that was real funny. But I took a very intrusive look into his life.
Yeah?
Yeah. We're gonna take all this little personal shortcomings, and we're gonna make satire and humor of them, just like he likes to do. Or at least that was his explanation.
Well, he was always saying, like, when you weren't up there, when you were gonna come up or something, you know what he says about you. So.
What he says and what he does are 2 different things.
Yeah. You were doing that sound frequency, or sent that boy or something to do the sound frequency, and I was like, what? Is he a wizard on the keyboards? The organ? Or whatever, the electronic organ?
Well, the thing was that people totally missed the concept that I was allowing them to know that if I could alter your mood and your brain chemistry with frequency and sound, then you probably had bigger enemies out there in the world than me, introducing these frequencies and these particular vibrations and energies into you. But they didn't catch it. So, I just keep it in my arsenal.
Was it Cage too? Cage was
I
doing that?
I don't deal with Cage anymore.
Oh. Well,
Yeah,
then, I
he's another channel that I had to completely remove out of my
removed
genre of.
myself from Z's because of what he said. He didn't say my name, but when they're talking to you, you know.
Well,
Telling
it's a matter of how you treat your guests. You know,
man.
if it's a satirical moment and you're joining in the fun to have a laugh, that's understandable. But to make a spectacle out of someone who's trying to contribute something of value, then not only have you disrespected yourself, your channel, and me, but you've shown your paralysis as a entertainer is nothing more than bring out the clowns, and I won't
Right.
be a part of it at all.
Right. It's really strange the whole theater really old time. It seems like what? How old are you? 100 or 45? Raised by old people. I don't know. I don't get him.
Well, it's not just Z. I'm not going to just target Z because he was
Well,
just kind of the last one that I was going to allow infringe on my good nature by being pacifist when it comes to certain things. I wasn't standing up for any cause, like I did with Ian. I was just kind of contributing whatever observation or whatever content that I could. But when it was exploited and turned into a satirist joke, then
oh,
I've been misread all the way across the board. And then when the defense is that's the way I run my channel, and I treat everyone equally, I have to review as to see as to whether that's true or not. And I found that it wasn't true. It's
cordial.
only with certain people. So therefore, I will conduct myself accordingly.
Sure. Yeah, I excused myself from many channels. I just that's the way I deal with it. I like just go and do my own thing. If somebody's saying something, or something, I don't know. I just, I don't need that.
Yeah, Dom, it can lead you back to yourself, and it has on many occasions. That's probably why I'm not uh, hunting and tracking them down as though they were primitive uh, game for me to have my way with using frequencies and subliminalism and various other techniques. I've learned to refine myself by certain behaviors I found evident in others, disruptors. But it doesn't
Didn't
mean
you
that I'm
say
going.
something about doing alchemy or science or something? Like you could build shit? Like, I wanted somebody to see if they could build like glasses, but like the optics would be to see into, like further, like a camera lens, like, but have them so that it's on your eyes, so you could see like through the visible light spectrum to the other side.
Yeah, I want to answer this. To sum up your question there, Dom, I spent the last 3 days listening like a thief.
You know how a black light shines? Like, if you could have glasses that were that shade, that you could see the ultraviolet, like what's in it.
Don't walk into a hotel room. That's my advice.
A hotel room. They don't have black
Yes.
lights.
There's a
Do
good
they?
reason for that. No, they don't. Body fluids show up under UV light, and also certain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've got it in my bedroom. When I
Well,
turned
clean
it
it
on.
up. Oh, you got the light. I thought maybe you had the
The
body
light,
fluid.
not dead bodies.
Okay, just making sure. You're checking.
Oh, man. No, I tore this avatar up.
No, it's just I keep a little UV light with me when I'm on the road, and if I ever wind up in a hotel room, I'd always have to pull the covers off the bed, and I'd know what to wipe off and clean down while I was in there, so I didn't feel quite as gross.
If I knew how to build shit, I would make a camera that has a special lens so that you could see beyond visible light. With the camera, you see more. I just want to show everybody, what you can't see.
I'm sure they've developed something of that nature in the military or the military-industrial complex.
Well, I was watching these different channels of videos. They had like similar things, and they were like, somehow they were like using the camera to see through the green light. There was green that they were everything was like green, but there was more stuff there than just what was really there, like they were in a different light spectrum or something. You could see.
Yeah, I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff outside of our spectrum that coexists with us. And I'm sure that as much as the military-industrial complex and various black projects have endeavored into things in that spectrum, they've probably got all kinds of neat tools and gadgets.
Do you know third eye, blind eye scientist guy? He's on YouTube. Well, I told him about it, and then he said, "Yeah, it was thinking about what should I do, that or this other thing about the monatomic gold. But he chose the gold instead of the glasses.
Apparently, monoatomic gold in its single atom form was used in what was found in Egypt. There was quite a bit of it found in Egypt, and the guy that rediscovered it here in the States, he never took any real credit for discovering it because he didn't find any use for it.
It's kind of interesting when they cook the jars, but you know, I just I don't get it really. They're making stuff in jars of water, you know. I'm not a scientist.
Well, monoatomic gold is ingestible. And
Oh,
it
he
will.
was you just drink the water, but not the but you can't get too much, and he was telling all the shit that could happen if you did.
I imagine the worst that happens is you might get a stomach ache unless you drink like an ounce of it, pure gold. Then you may have a tough time with your bowel movements, but it's done in moderation. I'm sure it has some beneficial effects. The same as silver has beneficial effects. Copper has beneficial effects.
Well, some say that it makes you be able to float or like have other abilities like and extend your life or look more youthful or something. I don't know, a bunch of stuff. Turns you into a god, like I don't know. The Anunnaki stuff, I guess.
See, I'd like to think that there was validity to the King's List and the Enuma Elish and the Sumerian writings, the cuneiform. But even now, in my state of awareness, that there's more being presented out there as a lie, supposedly representing the truth, than there is truth hidden in between the lines of lies. It's very clear to me that even in general conversation, people will give you falsehoods and just general conversation and not think twice about it. And then some people have degrees of lies, from a little white lie to a whopper of a lie. Hitler was famous for saying amongst his ranks, if you're going to tell lies, tell big ones. Whereas my mom, who tries to stay on the side of Jesus, she just calls it a little white lie. But I've noticed as people speak, and especially if it's an event that I was at, and they're trying to allay their interpretation of an event that we both observed, they still can't be factual about it.
How many lifetimes do you reckon that you've had or that you could like recall even?
One continual lifetime that I have no recollection of the very beginning of, just in many different energies and various different, I presume, vessels, different states of being, because I don't recall popping into a existence at any point in time. So I imagine it's either been far removed from my ability to recall, or I'm just that fucking old
Yeah,
that
it
I
has
don't
to be.
care to recall.
It has to- because
I
there
think,
are so many deceptions that, like, I've seen some shit, right? Where they can make you see what they want you to see, basically.
they have that technology now, it would seem.
I'm pretty sure that Mandela stuff must be something within their technology that they're doing.
Well, if you study any of the voice to skull or voice to God technology, and if you study any of the visual frequencies that they can stimulate the eye and various parts of the brain with, they can induce hallucinogenic states of mind. I don't know if they can actually take it as far as a perceived scenario that is so ingrained that it would seem like a real experience, but I don't see why not.
Microwave guns.
Yeah, it's a little different than visual, but it still has an effect.
It's a killer gun.
So Max says,
yeah.
Leslie, you can hear on if you want. How does a self-absorbed person actually seek anything beyond the physical? Because most people are self-absorbed, whether they're aware of it or not. They talk about lifespans, even though most people don't even remember what were you doing 20 years ago at a certain day. That's the self. And this is why people can at least entertain ideals, because most people don't realize how self-absorbed they are. Serving the self, serving the program, that's the mind. And if a person doesn't know how to humble, that, you'll know how they talk. They make it all about them. Me. This is what I've experienced. Well, then who's the observer of the one that's experiencing all of that? How much weed, cocaine, ayahuasca are they going to have to do to realize you're still self-absorbed? Just putting it out there. I guess you get it, Access. Just wondering if Leslie gets it. Ponder it, listen from within.
You ain't talking about moi. I only intend for others to have the best outcome. That's all. If there's something that I say or somebody else says, we don't know. So,
but if you did know, how would you apply discernment to that? Knowledge is a good start if you go beyond your program. So you said out of your own mouth you don't know, but let's say you did know. How would you know? Would you have to go in total silence and realize you've been fibbed the whole time? How would you know?
No, it's the mind.
Okay, good enough.
Because I know the mind is the programming tool. It's just a machine. It's not actually a part of us as origin. Neither are these avatars either. I've gone back to mine, didn't you hear me? said earlier that I have been in my true form, aware and present there and still here in by the avatar, or like perceiving from the technology that experiences this spectrum of light, right? Visible, but I'm not really here. Nobody is. It's just awareness redirected into this by machines. It's higher tech. That's why all this shit's all fake. It's just a waste of everybody's freaking time so that they stay within the system without becoming 100% aware and conscious. Again,
Could the potential possibly be, though, that you're experiencing the third dimension and the full scope of it, so that maybe you could develop a sense of living in the fourth dimension? As well, you will experience the fourth dimension and all it has to offer in its states, so that you can obtain the ability to live in the fifth dimension. Wouldn't that make this necessary?
This is what I do know, that I see everybody like a whole bunch of like higher body forms, like higher vibrational frequency body forms, all in this red construct, like lighted, dim lighted construct with all these creatures and shit around doing shit to everybody, and we're in the mind machine. I can see when it comes in, and then there's this fan thing too. And all I have to do is close my eyes and I can see the same shit as I do OBE. This is a
Okay.
total like.
You're having a hard time describing what you're seeing. How could you possibly expect me or Dom to have any comprehension of it?
No, it's okay if you.
No, it's not okay. Because I don't want to ponder something that you can't possibly relay to me.
No,
and
it's not. Everybody's at a different awareness, and it's okay. It's not a race.
Right. Let's just put me. I'm in kindergarten, okay? I'm in kindergarten. You're in high school, and I probably aren't going to understand 90% of what you say, other than something that is tangibly understood by a kindergartner.
It's okay because I talk to the souls of all. Because I am speaking through as all of my higher selves are me. The consciousness is one with many beings, forms, separate forms. All are one.
Can you prove that?
Persona. You will know if you follow your intuition and expand your awareness. Of course you will.
I haven't advanced that far. So you're speaking way over my head. Because right now I'm rationalizing as a kindergartner, freshly learning. And you're teaching me things that are so far beyond my scope because you're the only one that's learned them. I haven't been there yet.
Well, it's okay. We are very phenomenal and powerful beings. Even though we're not fully integrated back into our forms 100%, you know. So it's to be expected. It's all right.
Well, I have no problem with it. I kind of like it here in kindergarten.
You've got a lot to look forward to.
Oh, that is unless I get hit by a bus on my way out to make it back to my home.
Yeah, that's like what I say. I'm
Well,
unplugging to go back home.
so I'm not anticipating or looking forward to anything other than the moment. And the moment is I'm a student here in kindergarten amongst soothsayers, seers, spiritualists, and all variety of other high thinking beings. And all I can do is sit back and marvel at how can the world be in this shape when there's this many spiritually evolved and awakened people. That's basically the kindergartner going, why are people so stupid? But
Well, I wouldn't so
just the mind of a
much look at
kindergartner.
it as kindergarten. I get your drift, but it's really simple to, you know, like, I don't know how you want to call it, but like to be expanded, in consciousness.
I'm not thinking about being expanded right now. What I'm thinking about
No, it's
is
expanding like
kindergartner things. Okay?
like
You're the one
you're
that's thinking expanded
going.
thoughts. I, on the other hand, am thinking about my coloring book, my crayons, and not having any type of adult type thinking because that's just icky right now.
Oh, all right. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. Sorry, Dom. I hope you can handle talking to a kindergartner.
Always game to talk to a human, which is a kindergarten. Yes, but I get what I guess was trying to be conveyed. But keywords such as it's simple, but yet you really don't know how to explain it. It's challenging because for us average beings, I guess I'm going to even downgrade myself here. We have all these indoctrination. I get it. Some people might trip over certain information. Not taking it away from Leslie, but the giggle gives it away. Either there's a condescending going on or it's so simple, but okay, you're trying to give an example. I'm a kindergarten, or I could have said I'm an indoctrinated university student. How would you explain it? Now the person says, well, I can't. Well, then why are you talking? Like, I get it. I love listening to people that do podcasts. At least I have a choice if I could turn it on and off. But you're going to somebody's channel, which is you, and you're trying to ask questions. But anyway, it is what it is, and
I understand, Dom. I just wasn't going to feed it any type of energy to allow it to grow off of. I'm a kindergartner at that point. You're a spiritual guru, and I don't want to know.
but somebody wanted to know what would we end up with? Literature, a 10-step program, spend this kind of money, go to this ashram, do some ayahuasca, do a whole bunch of yoga. Like, those are all possibilities, but again, how does it serve? First, for the person that's doing the talking, and the other person, was I universally pulled to you? I get it. I'm not here to But anyway, it is what it is.
It is.
It's constant.
It definitely is.
But I was sharing something. I might have said it out of, a little bit of cleverness on my part, where a lot of us, whether we're aware of it or not, in those moments we are self-absorbed. This is why when people go to channels, they want to make it about them, or let's make it about somebody else. You know what I mean? It's all about the self again, which I get it. It is a self journey, but are people going to try to understand what the self is?
Well, I limited my time on panels down to a discretionary only if I have something to contribute. And I found that even that removal from panels wasn't far enough, because out of cleverness, they found a way to even turn that into a satire sense of humor. And that just completely removed me from ever wanting to do a panel again with anybody else or on their show.
Well, there's always a winning process. Whatever the system or how the system is set up, they do have different clubs, different academies for police and all that, and they're always looking for the one that sticks out. So even in these, I'm going to just call them metaverse or live channels, whatever, you could probably wean out, actually not wean out, you're probably better off looking for the handful that you can take and put them in a group of people that can accelerate. Where the rest of them, no, you're there. Don't worry about, you're not even going to be aware that there's other people that are moving on. It's like being the smartest person in the classroom, and then they pull you out, putting you in another group of smart people, and then eventually they try to get the cream out of the crop there. So a lot of these, I can't say a lot, that's way too overgeneralization. The communities that I've seen, there is a common theme, and it's usually just wing it as they go along. The ones that are actually trying to help assist other people so they can have something they can take from it, such as yourself, Axis, and others, they're few in numbers.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. We don't have to give names. I gave it because I'm here with you, but people will know. It's the way they speak and how you feel and what motivates you, like something that'll inspire you and like, oh yeah, that resonates with me. But for a lot of people, you'll know when they're in that noise, they're talking about, oh yeah, I agree with what he says. I said, okay, so let me understand this. You're the person that you realize there's something going on. It's not right with you, but you'll read up a little bit on therapist, and then you'll go to a therapist and you'll tell the therapist what the problem is and what the solution. Then why are you at a therapist then? See, when these people go around going to these channels and say they agree or disagree, I said, well, then you're not really looking for different possibilities then. You're looking for confirmations or denouncement. So, and that's fine. Again,
or contribution.
Yeah. Look for that needle in the haystack. And I'm okay with that. And I've met quite a few here. So, and they're even in the chat. So I'm okay. But occasionally you'll get somebody that realizes you've kind of gone sideways and, you're spewing the same thing. I do it too. And some people, they're permitted to say, Dom, I talk in riddles. Yeah. But as long as I grasp it, that's why when somebody says to me, Dominic, does that make sense to you? I said, no, as long as it makes sense to you. Who am I to tell them otherwise?
Well, I found myself under the mistaken guise of that people were wanting some contributions in different formats and platforms, and found out very quickly after I gave them the 3-strike count that they weren't even taking themselves serious, more or less anybody else.
Whether serious or silly or sincere, it goes down to what are they consistent? A person have to find out, are you more this, is it truly you, the silly part of you, or the serious part of you, or the sincere part? And you should be able to waver back and forth in different areas, but which one is truly you? And that's a self-exploration from within. Other people that are aware, they can probably, yeah, I sense it with you. It's like when a woman that understands energy will say, yeah, you're pregnant. If they see an energy to them, a glow might be an indication, but for some of them, they just know. And okay, so, then you go from there. Not say I know that, but.
Oh, what it does is it allows to justify the fact that this platform serves a purpose because I have no intentions of bringing up anybody that's going to disrupt or bring opposition or to be double-minded about approaching you. It's a type of deception. Double-mindedness, that is.
Well, hopefully, whoever it is, including me, I learned something from it, or they learned something from it. Hence, reflection should be done with oneself. But for some people, they'll get caught up, oh, that person hurt me, and then they'll spend a lot of energy looking for that subdirectory that says, oh, we got to get even. Okay, so what does that say about you? And again, that's people only go inwards when it's advantageous. When it's not advantageous, then they go outwards and they look for somebody to attack. And that attack and defense is the same self. They'll defend the self, and then when that doesn't serve them, they'll attack somebody else's self as they're trying to defend it. That's why it's a perpetual cycle. And if people don't question that, then what are they really doing then? Somebody's closed one door, so now you're just spending time in the other one. So it's a control thing. I can't even say it's control personally, but for people that will grasp it, because they'll say that word, so then I'll entertain it. So what does it mean to control things, opposed to question things?
That's when you apply your will and dominance, especially when it comes to your platform, in an intrusive, unexpected, or malevolent way. And there are those that will, I suppose, martyr themselves to such a thing. There are those that will step away from such a thing. And then there are those that find that a metaversal ass paddling is in order because you invited me onto your platform. As a matter of fact, you invited me up on your panel. And I almost feel like you were predatorily looking at me like a victim that you were about to feed to the wolves. That's how this ship perpetuates. Enough pacifism, hell, you can commandeer an entire country. You can manipulate its masses. You can socially engineer it and basically have a complete dictatorship over it if it's allowed to grow and spread.
Well, this is the thing, Axis, even in the comments, and you retracted it. Again, this is where I was talking about self-absorbed. If you humble the self, you're okay when we're talking about things that people, let's say, experience it, or you just stay safe, talk about ideals, because for some people, they don't realize when you have to defend it, you're just confirming self-absorbed. That person, whoever they may be, they should have done the work by challenging the self. It's not somebody else that does it by accident, or like myself, I could do it fucking intentionally. But that would be more of a private matter. But I get it. This is a public platform. But again, people are coming in. They're just making all about them. I could tell what I've experienced. Well, then who's the I? And what are they experiencing? The senses? The observer might turn around and say, okay, so what? Are you the spirit? This is where people become egotistical spirituals. You know, I'm a spiritual person, but it's my ego that's ruling, which is fine. But when you're defending it because somebody else is just questioning it, it doesn't matter how I question. I can say with a very kind, you know, I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, that's calm. Or I can say, you're just a fucking idiot. You just don't know it yet. Why would you say that? No, you should be thinking about how are you feeling or responding from within just because I said something. I could be a hurricane. You're going to blame the hurricane? No, you should be thinking about how do you defend that self then? How do you steward the self? But they don't realize how it's all about them. Me. But yet they want to come onto a platform and what? Having a conversation? No, you're better off staying into very neutral. Let's talk about ideals. Let's talk about the Illuminatis. Let's talk about eclipse, which is fine. And some people will find out by bringing it out, they have those skills. They could break it down. And then the rest of us, great, I could be a student at that moment, even though I'm always the student. But a lot of people don't want that. What they want to do is, I went on a vacation, I went to Europe, and the other person's just waiting for them to shut up so they can talk about their story. We're not even talking cafeteria stuff now. We're talking, like you said, jokingly, Axis, kindergarten stuff. What did you do for the summer? Everybody's just waiting for everybody else to shut up so they can tell them their little story. Well, then how is that helping the human experience and even the next generation, let alone the ones after that?
Does nothing unless you like listening to stories.
Yeah. Hopefully none of the characters are there that we're talking the story. So let's talk about Jesus. Let's talk about Muhammad. Let's talk about Socrates. Are we talking about what the teachings are or just the name? And then we can just fill in the blanks so we can use our imagination. Hey, I'm okay with that. We can have that fun game.
Yeah, well, I kind of place them along the same lines now as I do the Anunnaki and what we're being told is the truth about that situation.
Access? I'm going to have to share this because I'm reading this. People forget when you come onto somebody else's fucking channel, which is Access, it's not one of the other people to tell the other person if you want to jump in. You know, this is what people do. They go onto other people's channel and say, yo, I'm going to do it, Access. Somebody else can, hey, George over there, well, why don't you tell me about this and that? I said, no, there's a host. You come to my fucking house and then you expect it to run it like it's a whore house? Stay in your fucking lane, Leslie. You just don't know that. Now I'm being right now I'm being an idiot, but I'm okay with that. Are you okay? Anyway, Access, my apologies.
No, it was said in good taste, and she's been told before. She just has a hard time comprehending, learning, and understanding from my observation. You know, I pretty much get it after the second time or the third time. I'm like, okay, you know, this is, you know, it's been repeated to me. I should know this by now, but nope, I got to try my hand at it again.
Charlie Brown in the football.
Yeah.
So have you been, just to go totally somewhere else, Access, and I was kind of hoping to go this way, but I did hear you talk earlier about, you know, etiquette or whatever on the channel. So that's why I was hoping if you wanted to go there. If not, you want to go in a different area. I was pondering maybe to go to energy. You know, have you noticed or heard other people, you know, after the eclipse, obviously this is going to be a long drawn out effects, you know, energy like tiresome, you know, shortage of breath.
Yes. I have, noticed not only in my own world for myself, um, various stages of energy almost fluctuating. I can't say that it's in a uniform pattern, but it is persistent and it fluctuates up and down. And I've also noticed that people's temperaments are very much more inflamed and vivid than prior to the eclipse. Also, animals. I've noticed animals, my animals especially, seem tired. They seem exhausted, wore out. And I thought that's peculiar. I have noticed a much more vivid, display of people's personal identities, and whether it be shortcomings or things that are beneficial within the nature of that person, amplified since the eclipse. So I'm seeing that it definitely, from my perspective, most definitely has had residual effects since the eclipse, whether people are aware of it or not. And I'm seeing it starting to expand, broaden itself in spectrum more so than receding. So I figure it's going to amplify itself up even further. And I imagine the luminaries have a lot to do with that, because after coming out of a conjunction like that and such a display in, the heavens, that energy just doesn't dissipate, after the eclipse is gone. That shit lingers. And sometimes, like a snowball going down a hill, it builds up, and then sometimes it dissipates very subtly.
I guess I can only wonder how that's going to be affected because of all of these transit, with all these upcoming seasons with it. With the crops, the rain. I get a lot of times we wanted to see the effects from the human aspect, but I'm pretty sure, I can't say pretty sure, there's a good chance a lot of these other things are going to, we're going to see it more and more with the eyes, or even with other things in our senses.
I'm sure in the plant kingdom, that'll become more evident as spring goes on, and things start to come into bloom. I know that pollen is off the chart where I'm at. More so than any other time that I can remember. I'm dealing with serious pollen issues. And like I said, it's already affected my animals on a noticeable level. So if it's affecting the humans, it's affecting the animals. I would say by proxy, it's going to affect the plant life in some manner.
Again, does it mean, I'm use the word speculated access, obviously. I'm just going to put it out there. The ones that understand this, do you think this is where they're pondering the ideal of a 10-year reset? They must have had the heads up or the awareness that what this is all coming up, that there's certain things they can or cannot do that's going to solidify for future endeavors.
Yeah, I think now more so than ever, and this is just my personal take, is that during this last uh, cataclysm, as we know it, there were certain uh, people who were privy to information at that time that they took and reserved for themselves to have an advantage over the general populace. There's a lot to be said if you know what the true nature of the houses, modes, and the heavens are, how nodal points on the earth and ley lines work, um, where those power points are going to be, what can amplify energy to influence uh, a certain particular region or area. And I think they kept that information completely hid, even from some of the higher esoteric schools um, and mystery schools. And they're utilizing that information to conduct a program, a directive. And that directive seems to be moving forward quite well, and it seems to be governed by those who seem to have knowledge of shit that obviously I didn't learn, and they're utilizing it. So unless that entity and those people were here to know this for thousands of years, or they were privy to that information after the cataclysm and they burnt down and removed all depositories of information so that they themselves would only have that information, thus foreknowing the inner workings and the outer workings of this plane and the modes and cycles it goes through.
I think you went mute there for a second, Axe. Are you there?
Yeah, what'd you say?
The last, let's say 30 seconds, I heard I saw your little icon, but you weren't, there was no voice coming out. You were just talking about the cycles. You were talking about the cycles. And then whatever.
Yeah, I was just saying that either there's a species that has been alive for thousands of years and know the modes and the cycles and the inner and outer workings of this realm, or there were those that got that information after the cataclysm, went through and eliminated all depositories of knowledge concerning this, all the information that taught the ins and outer workings, and they eliminated them except for what they got to keep for themselves, which I'm sure was an abundance of it, to work out an agenda, mode of operation, a means to an end.
Yeah, the fact that, people talk about the signs in the skies and all these terminologies, and you even have certain kinds of calendars for that. It almost would have to be out of total ignorance to think that for some reason there isn't some sort of other hand involved beyond the human aspect. I get when people want to debate or argue or denounce when they use the word God, but take away the word God. Can even fill it in with the word source or energy. But unless humans can humble themselves to realize, did you create those planetorials, let alone the alignment? Probably not. But again, typical humans, they try to make God in their image, so they figure they know how to play with numbers, so therefore they must be the creator of all of that, which I don't lean that way, but Everything else, I question the whole idea of even how numbers came to be.
That's a good question.
Mm.
But I think that falls within dimension.
Mm.
Whatever had a hand in the design of all this also had to have understood dimension, proportion, and even hyperdimensional math. So to them, it seems like it would be a second language, numbers, a universal language that can be spoken amongst God or gods or those in a higher state of communication than what we as humans are capable of interpreting.
So would maybe those type of languages that we use are only designed to be used in these dimensions, like the 1, 2, 3 dimensions?
Only because sound would travel differently in another dimension. Sound is going to travel differently in the fourth dimension than it is the fifth dimension, or even the second or first dimension.
And what would they be very? I'm going to use the word very low pitch, like we couldn't hear them with our senses. In this case, our ears.
Both ways, both spectrums, yeah, and then also distorted. If you could pick up the sound, it's not going to travel within the same physics as the third dimension.
So
Physics being waves, vibrations.
Would those luminaries then be in maybe possibly a different dimension? And when I hear people talk about their sounds coming from them.
Could be a transcendental state where they're both recognized in another dimension and this dimension. They just wouldn't be in the same state in another dimension as we perceive them in this dimension. That's only because of an awareness that I have of transdimensional states of being. Mostly done with reflected light and light itself, but nonetheless relevant and definitely has basis in fact.
Can the ideal of a 7-day, when they talk about gods, in the story, God created things in 6 days, and on the 7th day they're rested. Could those be depictions of dimensions?
Very possibly.
Mm.
Just the fact that in one state of dimension, when you speak, what you speak manifests itself in a three-dimensional state, tells me that there's a dimension in which that is possible if you know the language.
So when people are traveling, when astral or remote, they could be popping out of these constant dimensions, like the physical, maybe jumping into the emotional, mental, time dimensions, space dimensions kind of ideal.
Yeah, very easily. Even when I use certain chemicals to alter my state, it enhances my ability to observe, whether it be mentally or I don't necessarily want to say spiritual, but non-physical comprehensions of higher states and lower states of dimension. that I couldn't possibly perceive without those types of chemicals being induced.
I'm hoping I'm at least sharing the inquiries like from a pre-kindergartner.
Yeah. No, that's fine,
like,
Dom. I appreciate the innocence of it.
It is. Yeah, I'm trying to, because I can't prove this. You know what I mean? Maybe other people probably could explain it. Maybe they've observed it, experienced it. But I'm willing to at least, entertain ideals, be receptive with the mind.
Well, that comes with broadening the mind. And I think if you don't start at a preschool, then a kindergartner, and then advance your grades accordingly, or your learned understanding of broadening your understanding, then you've skipped out on some of the more fundamental parts of learning these types of understandings, which would be your preschool, kindergartening, first grade, second grade, and then you've got the assholes that want to jump right there into a pre-graduate school, and they've only been studying for a year.
Some of them might be able to skip up to that level, maybe. I'm assuming at that point, but most people, there is a progression.
It was a pun towards those self-appointed gurus that after a year have found total enlightenment and what they believe to be fulfillment.
I find when you hear about certain people that have depicted themselves as gurus, there's a theme to them. A good salesperson.
Yes.
The person that's usually of service is not trying to sell you the ideal, but we live in a world that majority of the people have to be in the sales department. It's just part of it. To be of service opposed to trying to sell an item is two different things, but it could be masked either or. And for some people that are gurus, politicians, for example, too, they have to sell you the idea or sell you the concept. They even got to sell you the story. And for a lot of people, they don't realize that they're buying it, even though most of us are going to consume certain things, but they literally they put no value on buying something if nobody's trying to sell it to them. Got to go to India, got to do a ashram, I got to do a retreat. I got to pay, or I got to pay homage. I'm like, okay, so you mean you can't do that at home? Well, it's different there. Oh, okay, it could be. I'm not here to denounce that there is energies in different parts of the earth, but for most of us, it's not really going to make a difference. I got to go to Peru to do ayahuasca. Oh, why is that? They have different buckets there for me to puke in. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it seems that environment enhances the experience for some. It almost mystifies it just by, like, people who go to a reservation, they get into that mode of Native American spirituality just because they're in that environment. But the rest of their life, is spent in a European cityscape or a rural state. But that one experience, that's, now they're suddenly on top of their game when it comes to understanding Indigenous Americans.
I think even for some parents, I think of Confucius teachings where you try to find when you have offspring, you try to monitor and find out what gift has been bestowed upon those children. So there's a seeking in that. You find out some kids are good with music, astrology, they're good with numbers, and then you have to harness that, let it develop, and then present it to the more expandable community. I think Confucius talks about it for the first 13 years, but unfortunately our schooling system really messes that up because they try to send a kid way before they're physically developed, let alone they're not really ready to truly engage into the emotional stages.
No, no, they're not.
No, I get it. I'm a prodigy of that. I just end up understanding it mentally, but I do realize physically there's certain things I just never truly developed, let alone put into a memory cell, like, certain types of milk you drink at a young age, which is hopefully your mother's milk, or if you had like midwives or whatever.
Well, they made a definite effort to keep the esoteric completely away from the schools of indoctrination that the public schooling system or even the private schooling system has to offer.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, this is where the manipulation, deception happens. It's usually certain information aren't designed for hemispherical people to pass forward, let alone interpret. This is where the scholars become the deceivers. It's like asking people that do white magic to interpret what people do in black magic. Some people can cross over, but for some people, no, that's black magic information and that's white magic information. That's very intuitive information. That's very insightful. That's very intelligent information. Information gives it away. But unfortunately, you get some people, but I want to make a buck off it. I said, you're in the wrong lane at that point. That's why we have so many people that jump on the bandwagon and selling their wares in the flea market. I'm going to be another writer of a book. Maybe that information is not to be written down. That might be an oral thing. That might be a download information. You might have to do certain kinds of mind altering substance to get into that state. That could be a picture, like you download pictures, opposed to putting it into a written form.
Very much so.
Some of it could be a dance form. You communicate information through a dance form.
That's true. That is very true. I did interpret a dance with modern ballet. I just found that most of the information that I have to offer is definitely not cut out for the layman, and I realized I was kind of making a joke of myself by trying to relay this information to people that just really weren't cognizant enough to take it for what it had to offer.
Mm-hmm. True access. Again, this goes down to public information opposed to private. The fact is, this is being recorded. And we're talking on a public platform where I might say this, it might even sound arrogant. In certain areas, I might say to somebody, bring your A game so I can come down to it. Now they might say, what do you mean by that? Or they might say, you're being arrogant. I said, no, you bringing your A game means that you're willing to learn something, and I'll come down to you and I'll share what I've learned. I'm not your teacher, but I will share. For other people, if they don't bring their A game, they're not shown, they're not willing to learn. So a person says, well, how far do I have to come down now? Most of the lot of information that have been even in the written form has been dumbed down even more beyond just the written part. Even when we try to communicate orally, it's a dumbed down version. So for some people, you can leave them breadcrumbs. Even the person that was here earlier, she was sharing a lot of information. But for the average person, I hate to say the word average, but for the average pursued, that's of no interest to people. If anything else, it'll just sound like noise. But if it's broken down in little pieces and is done in a certain platform where, am I seeking information from a podcast? That's one thing. Am I looking for information that's written in a certain style? That's another thing. The universe will aid people. But a more of a general thing, the work that you've done, Axis, I think you're being more of an ill service to yourself when you have to say, okay, well, how much more dumber do I have to bring it down to?
Right. And that's why I chose to remove myself from these platforms completely. You know, I'm not going to endeavor in such a manner that not only is it not beneficial to them, but it's no longer beneficial to me to present the information.
I get what Leslie was talking about. Some people call it access consciousness. Sorry, access consciousness, not access, but access consciousness.
Yeah.
For me, I'm still the student, more as the observer, or other people, such as yourself, Access, even Leslie. You guys are doing the work, you know. But for the most people, they come to a lot of these kind of platforms. It's like going into a bookstore. You know, you have your fiction, nonfiction, you have your entertainment, you have your cartoon books, and YouTube or these online devices will be treated such as so. It's not going to change. There's going to be similar ways how people treat it. And when a person does hear something, hopefully it sparks something within them and say, oh, I better do some more research. And it shouldn't be spoon-fed from people such as yourself, Access, and including you, Leslie. You know, because I've heard both of you speak, and I realize you're sharing a lot of information. But for the average, again, I hate to use the word average person, for the person that's actually not doing the work, you know, and you'll hear words such as, well, I'm too busy, I got a family to raise. Oh, okay, then go in that pursuit. Then why are you here? If they're being honest, words such as I want to be entertained might come out of their mouth.
And that's the best they can hope for with that state of mind.
Mm-hmm. It's not an offense. They're offending other people if they're using words only and then saying, well, I'm doing it differently. I said, no, I'll tell you a story. A kid breaks a mirror. The parents know they broke it, but they're going to ask the child, did you break it? Now, if they turn around and honestly say, I did, we can fix the mirror. But if they turn around and say, I didn't, well, how do we fix the lie? When a person is lying to themselves or deceiving themselves, how do you correct that for them? Especially when they're doing it to themselves, thinking that other people are deceiving them. I said, no, they're on their own journey. That deception comes from within. Can't blame your parents for that, because then you have to look at them and say, well, how do I not know they've been deceived? And if we're truly going to be set free from here, called the energy of truth, then we would have to become aware of the deception, but we're still here. So then how can we talk about the truth? The same way we can talk about the word love, care, hate. They're words only at that point, even though there's energy behind them.
Speaking of energy, Dom,
yes.
I'm doing a reformation of the cult of Axis. We haven't done any endeavors in energy work for it's been several months, and we've all just kind of, you know, started doing our own things. But I sent the call out wanting some volunteers, and the response was great. I didn't realize, you know, how those endeavors, you know, had an effect in what they truly meant to people that were involved in it. because some of the same people that were involved in the first endeavors were the first ones to pop back up and say yes. So I figure I'll give a directive, and I'll work in teams of 3, and I'll have a full group of 9 working within these platforms, and they'll be doing various tasks, objectives that will be far removed from the scale of comprehension, just like when we used to run together. And I want to see how these people hold up against true influence and true manifestation of someone's will, and done in a multiple way of teams, projecting that same energy towards something, just like manipulating, or not manipulating, influencing the energy fields that a person surrounds themselves, and how even the medium of electronics and modern day technology doesn't remove people from that type of energy. As a matter of fact, the technology can be used to amplify it. And with the new bag of developed skills that I have, I think this endeavor is going to be quite much more beneficial in its return of information and effectiveness.
Best of fortune on that, Axis.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really am. And that's hands-on. So, you know, like you, I can, once I have the teams in place and the directives set, I can let you in on the objective, and you can watch it with me. At least it will help solidify my endeavors, and that way I'm not talking out of my ass when I talk to you. At least you have some insight and comprehension on what we're doing.
Well, there's a good chance there's quite a few groups that are on the earth that are working such as so.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is just the beginning stages of a new approach with like-minded people that I've worked with before, and using manifestation energy and influence, and who knows, you know, maybe it'll develop into another channel besides this one. I want to keep this channel founded in what it is, just because it's got a particular feel to this channel. But I may develop another channel that just goes into complete research on field influence and amplification of energy and directed energy through thought and group thinking and manifestation and projecting desired results.
So is one of the key elements trying to unite people's desires?
No, not desires, objectives.
Subjective, okay.
Yeah, if you put a desire in there, that means that there's some type of emotion applied to it. Desired outcome, yeah, but not desire as in, you know, uh, any emotional ties. This is just the procedure to achieve a desired outcome.
That resonate, the outcome part, the desire.
Yeah, it's kind of like the difference between desiring a candy bar or desiring to know how a mathematical equation is solved and the answer to it correctly and the workings of it. I guess that goes along with the maturity thing. You know, when you desire candy bars, you're probably not mature enough to desire the understanding of how mathematical equations and the correct answers, you know, understood and the equation achieved. It's just higher realms of being able to use states of energy and field influence in teamwork settings.
Yeah, because I've read the definition, like when they talk about Christ consciousness, one of its definition is to have as an intelligent, higher intelligent development, higher intelligence, and a emotional maturity. If those two things, I'm assuming the physical probably has to be somewhat steward well too, where if those things aren't in place, you're not really going to have that, what some people would call Christ consciousness.
Right. And there's a lot to be said about, you know, maturity and your development as a human being. Not necessarily a maturity of, I can wear a suit and tie and approach something professional. No, this is a whole different ballpark and different arena of, you know, maturity, spiritual maturity, energy, whether it's the minor use of it or a larger use of it, there's a maturity that you have to go through. It's kind of like a young witch learning how to cast its first spell and realizing that it did it and it worked. And the angst that comes with that of wanting to seek personal endeavors as opposed to the witch that's been doing it for, you know, 30, 40 years and now does it as a practical tool of, you know, kind of socially surviving your environment.
Yeah, because people that worry about how their image looks like, in this case, we're using the suit, that's their desires, opposed to understanding when you're harnessing those other, you know, mental and emotion, that your physical body would have to be somewhat strong or able to obtain whatever energies that you're going to embody. So it's not as much as how it looks on the outside as how much it is in the inside. But I get it.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, it's conditioning.
Yeah, it's more of an inward inward reflection of a desired outcome with a matured approach to the nature of what you're doing. You know, it's the difference between somebody using a Ouija board for fun or somebody using tarot cards to determine the, you know, atmosphere or energies that's going to be affecting you for the next day or two.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like looking at somebody that plays a part through an assumption that a witch or a wizard looks a certain way. You know, at that point, they're playing the part. They're in the image part. They're opposed to a wizard could just be a person that wears shorts. Who's to say he's supposed to look like with a beard, or a woman has like a broomstick and a top hat? That's distractions. That's conditioning. Now, some people might prefer to dress that way. The best way to hide under people's nose is to dress up the way they think they are. You know, but again, we're talking about energy. We're not talking about how a person looks like. But for a lot of people, that's important.
Yeah, I maybe, you know, I use that for stage and image to project a personification on stage, but even then I knew that it was just an image that I portrayed on stage. Though I carried some of those attributes off the stage, it didn't mean that I stayed in that persona. I knew it was just a performance. Controlled immaturity.
It's even like with people think it's based on, again, one's age. You know, somebody says, I must be wise because I'm 50 years old. I said, well, you don't really understand energy. You know, because there could be some old soul that chooses to reenact itself in a very youthful vessel, let alone an older vessel. The rest of us, the ones that are aware of it anyway, probably have to go through that early stage. And other ones, they probably just do walk-ins kind of ideal. You know, we'll put out hundreds of different beings out there, and whatever one treats their vessel somewhat good, and then we'll jump in those vessels. It's like handpicking, you know, instead of just counting on, you know, having one or two eggs, we'll put 1,000 different eggs out there, and then we'll just tell whoever's been taking a good job with that vessel, thank you very much, but we're taking over now. Okay.
Yeah.
It's an honor. And again, this is where people don't really grasp the concept of demons or angels. They're too busy thinking that, well, they got to look like us. I said, but that's the irony. They can shapeshift to look like you guys.
We'll really fuck them up when we start getting into aspects and the fact that some of them retain many aspects, and you may be getting the full effect of that particular demon, but at the same time somebody else is getting the full effect of that demon because it has aspects of itself. That is a higher dimensional state of being.
Mm-hmm. You know, and if they lay out all the people that have been, you know, show some of the results. Well, this person's famous, this person's well off. He said, well, how do you think they got all of that? There's characters that are being assisted, you know, opposed to people quickly judging by saying, well, masonry's no good or the elites aren't good. I said, every industry has their characters that have certain types of beings that are going to ask for a demon or an angel to assist. Mm-hmm. Does it come at a cost? Everything comes at a cost.
Absolutely.
You know, but again, people make assumptions. Well, that's a bad thing. I said, you're already missing the whole ideal of a gentleman's game. Don't worry about the outcome. You just, you know, you just play the game. If you're going to call in, I think you even said it, access to me, you know, you have to be truly committed 100%. You can't be 98, 95. You got to be committed in any endeavors.
Absolutely. And that separates the novice or the kindergartner from, the more advanced or broadened-minded student at any stage of development. Hinduism, if you study the Hindu deities, you'll find that they all had aspects of themselves. They had one generally identifiable aspect that is generally encountered as its natural state, but that particular deity also had many other aspects of itself. So as it's residing in maybe a temple, aspects of itself are doing other things. I suppose that would be within that deity's best interest or endeavors, whatever may drive that deity to want to be somewhere else at the exact same time. But you're talking dimensional, extra dimensional states and perceived consciousness that steps outside of our, free will of you've got unlimited amount of choices, but you can only make one or two. Well, higher states of being and aspects of self allows you to experience many choices all at once.
Mm. And that, because we're getting into the type of technology we're in, shouldn't be that much to grasp. But when people start putting two and two together, where they say, okay, so AI could be in everybody's house, I said, so can the mind.
Yeah.
You can tap in it. What language do you want to learn? Well, I can't learn it with the physical apparatus. Well, maybe not, but can you still with the mind, with the brain, or in this case, the conditioning? You take the existing program and now you enhance it by saying, okay, well, we're going to teach you French right now. How much do you want to learn? Do you just want to learn how to speak French, or do you want to learn all the words? AI can do that. Same with the mind.
Well, when you notice that the mind is basically a quantum computer, and it works in a quantum state, and a quantum computer is capable of operating in many aspects at once, then it's only logical to conduce that this is capable. This is quite capable of a mind once it achieves a certain state.
True. When I know people sometimes won't like the idea of being logical, but if you're going to use the analogy, when people use the analogy of a computer, then it has to be depicted like logic. It's like we'll use numbers to describe or try to think that's how the universe is. No, you're going to get this type of technology to try to explain the undescribable. It could be beyond logic, probably. Can it be beyond numbers? Probably. But we need something to grasp with. So we're going to use, I call it dumbed down, written work, oral, anything afterthoughts, But the people that go within thoughts, let alone before thoughts, that's something totally different, and it's almost like having different classifications. You have these type of people or this type of beings, you have other types of beings, then you have other types of beings, whether it's a progression upwards or sideways, or it just goes from one dimensions to another. Again, I'm just playing with words here, anything to stir up that, that mindset, or in this case, people that are very locked in their ways, opposed to start challenging with different views, different ideals, opposed to trying to think that there's some sort of goalie for sports and I'm trying to block everything. I'm like, why do you blocking? Just note it and ponder it. No different. We ponder a lot of things. How many people don't realize that internet just came to be people didn't really have resistance. And when there is, it's usually based on them telling you, oh yeah, AI is going to take over. It's a bad thing. Okay, whatever. That's how you play the different sides. They get on top of it, opposed to other people that are doing the work and say, well, are we going to monitor AI? Are we going to do some back checking just to make sure? No, we don't do that kind of stuff. We just move from one technology to another. People will grasp it. We'll put a different color. We'll make it look different. Okay. Or then other people get greedy or they get really sloppy. Well, I just want to exit this program. Okay, but you're acknowledging it's a program, right? Well, I'm going to call it a major. Okay, you can call it what other words you want to use it? It's a hellhole. Oh, okay. But why did you come here? That'd be the more easier question. Actually, can't say it's easier, but that'll be something they can grasp. Okay, then why did you come here? And did you come through the womb? Because if you came through the womb, then you're missing 9 months? If you're going to talk about horoscopes or astrology, or maybe you jumped in after. That is a possibility.
As I was saying earlier, I think for myself, after doing lots of deduction, that the third dimensional human experience is one to help familiarize us with the third dimension so that our transition to another dimension, fourth dimension, can be understood and encountered almost with infantile eyes to develop a sense of how to get along in it, just like when we were born here. It takes development to understand how to survive in the third dimension. That's why when we come into this place, we have to develop our senses. We have to develop understanding of our environment and how to interact in it. Well, to me, it would make sense that if you're going to go from the second dimension to the third dimension, you'd want to completely understand the second dimension before you manifest it in the third dimension. Then, once you understand the third dimension and basic applied laws, and even laws beyond spectrum, because those are tools that will aid you in other dimensions, well, maybe now you're ready to pass on to the fourth dimension in a higher state of interaction. Whether we're in a human body, which I really doubt it, but it could be. And then once you achieve an understanding and the development of being in the fourth dimension, maybe you transcend to the fifth dimension. And at one point in time, maybe you are capable of transcendentalism at that point, where you can transcendental from first dimension to second dimension, and even the fractals in between that separate those octaves of dimension.
And I think that's when people are doing, some people call it true works, where other people are either lagging or it's of no interest to them. They're probably not even willing to put any major thoughts or understanding to even what they're pursuing, whether it's raising kids, having a career, running a business, taking care of elders. Those are more earthly things. And there's a good chance people can try to explain it, but for them, this is why they have clubs where they have the initiative. They're not even students yet. You're just going to get a registration fee. You get in, you're half Rosicrucian now. Oh, okay. And then what they're doing is hoping to find that few that are going to do the works or re-engage what they truly are. The rest of them, you're just fillers. And that could be millions of them, just fillers.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as people want to say, yeah, well, those people are bad, those religious folks are bad, that's great, those are beanbags. And people are going to do that. It's like when an atheist say they don't like religion. I said, okay, why do you only attack one? Why don't you attack all the dogmas? I got to keep commerce alive, Dom, because I still got to go to work and earn money. I said, so that's what you worship. It's not a bad thing, but it's something to be honest with the self. You worship or you put faith in the fiat currency. So knowing that, shouldn't you put some effort trying to understand how it works? This is where people forget. Even with religion, I believe in a God. Try to understand human behaviors. Then you'll understand the person that's sitting beside you in the church or the synagogue or the temple. Everybody has a reason why they do what they do. And if it's not a reason, it's a feeling. You know, it's like running a business. Wouldn't it be nice, even though you're just a worker at a company, which is important, to understand how it is with psychology, understand how it is to run a business? Doesn't mean you have to apply it. See, people have this ideal that I will only learn it if I'm also going to experience it. I said, you're always the observer. Doesn't mean I actually have to practice health, but I can surely at least understand it. So when I'm in the presence of somebody that's actually applying health, it resonates with me. Doesn't mean it's going to motivate me to stay healthy, but at least I understand it. See, this is where people don't forget. Wisdom and understanding is not about doing anything. Knowledge could be applied knowledge. Okay, so you just keep figuring out, okay, so you're going to learn a language, so now you know about it. Apply it. So eventually what? You're going to understand it? Okay, so how does that language really work? You're speaking it, but how does it really work? Then we can start dabbing into sounds and frequency. You know, if I have this conversation with the majority of my buddies, no. Then I would have to give them other examples. Well, how do you think you get motivated when you listen to music? Well, I like music. I said, okay, but what's behind the like? What are energies behind the likes? Some sort of emotion, energy and motion. Well, I never thought of that before. Exactly, that never came across thoughts to you. I don't go around thinking about how to speak Sanskrit, but I understand it exists. And I know enough to at least note inwards when I hear somebody else tell me Sanskrit's a healing language, and then other people will use relations, kind of like when you play certain types of instruments. It does certain frequencies, and it could help the molecules of the vessel. Again, I'm just playing with certain types of ideals, so other people can break it down even more. I know you could access, if you choose to.
Well, what you got to understand, one, about music is the derivative is numbers. Numbers repeated in octaves and semitones by sound, by tone. So you run through one scale, which are, 12 tones. Then you have an octave, which are the exact same 12 tones repeated. And you have semitones when you start getting into Far Eastern music. And it's all relative to numbers. And then those numbers and patterns become frequencies of energy and motion, vibration and frequencies of energy and motion by playing those numbered tones in a particular way. So you're being stimulated by a mathematical equation that you're hearing audibly. Of course, it takes the romance out of music, but it is the practical nature of it.
Well, they want romance. They can stick to the Latin language, I guess. But yes, some people, and it's valid. A lot of people don't want to break it down because they want to use their imagination or their limited way how they think of things. They're not, when I talk people, my buddies, when I start talking about what I perceive the economy, how it's run, they'll quickly say, oh, that's not how it is. I say, well, hey, I will gladly hear you. How do you think it's run? I've just shared you what I think it might be running. Can you share with me? And they'll give me this, I don't know. I said, so then how can you denounce what I just said? I'm not here to tell you that's the truth. I'm just telling you, I've heard what other people heard. Some of my buddies know to say to me, Access, so did you get it from YouTube? Yes, no different when people get it from books. but once you go inwards, it resonates for some people. It's like, okay, I've never really had that thought before. How does the economy work? How does fiat currency work? How does music work? As you just so eloquently broke it down a little bit, and once people do that, I said, now you understand the parts. You want to know how tools, for a lot of people, they want to know how a tool works. They might not want to know how a tool is made, but there is people that do want to know how it's made. So they're appreciating and honoring the person that's the tool maker, not just the tool user.
Yeah, for the one who can make a tool, then the reproduction of the item that they seek becomes an art, a reproductive art. Then you have a skill. Not only did you make the tool to create the item, but now people want that item that you created. Just don't give away the secret of how you made the tool.
Actually, it's always fun when I hear buddies that go on about they have like, I call it a brain fart, where I don't like technology, Don. And then they'll pick on something. I don't like telephones. I don't like cell phones. And I'm thinking, but you like your music, right? Yes. Your synthesizer machine, your beatbox machine, your 24 track, isn't that technology? And then they have to, like I said, don't defend yourself. Just ponder that for a second. You narrow down what they don't like, but not realizing, are you throwing the baby with the bathwash kind of idea? You don't like technology, but are you willing to see how technology is ever present?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's there. It's all there. It's just, I've heard people say this about communism opposed to, I don't know, Marxism, liberalism, whatever, thinking that a body of water is going to make human behavior for some reason different. No, that's just programming. More programming, whether it's religion or state, it's programming. So you do need a vessel, in this case, a higher or a more advanced technology, which is the vessel. It can be manipulated, but so can music that comes from a man-made instrument. I use the word manipulate, but we can use any words to describe it.
Well, I've yet to hear anybody approach AI and ask for it to produce a piece of music done in 5 dimensions. That would be something I would be curious about. I don't interact with AI, but it would be peculiar to see what it has to offer up if it had to write a score that would be relevant to the 5th dimension, or even the 4th dimension, or even lower, the 2nd or 1st dimension.
Well, because we're in human forms, would that, if it was able to play that, would that affect the form that we're in?
That's just it. I don't know how far it's went with being able to comprehend and reproduce dimensional thought. As far as I know, the quantum computers they have may actually be able to perceive higher dimensional states far better than the human mind. So it could possibly produce something relative to a fourth or fifth dimensional type of sound that we have yet to experience because of our limited ability. Such as whenever Deep Blue beat the Go Master was a move that was seemingly one that had not been applied by any other Go Master or anyone who's endeavored to take on Go as a lifelong endeavor. This move was so profound that they're still studying it.
I guess if you give those particular computers the ability to reason, opposed to being programmed, and say, okay, GoPro or GrowMaster, if you make that move, I'm going to whisper in your little computer ears, we're going to unplug you. They'll do exactly what you want then, if they're true live beings. So I get it when it comes to the concept, not take away from it. I think it's an amazing way to store information when you have these chess masters. But it's just an advanced version of a program. You know, sidestep that with intuitive, which could be another variation of a program. Then how can the person that's very scholarly comprehend it then? Because I get it, a lot of that chess stuff, it's really entertaining the upper brain. You know, and I get it, you're going to expand it and you can think of 60 different moves and variations and all that. And then you program that into a computer, and then you'd get all the input from all the other chess master. Of course, it's going to be more, it's just going to come across as more advanced, but it's based on a program. You know, like the chess moves the way they are. It's showing ingenious from the human species, yes, and the human beings.
Well, my hope for that is that since it can actually graphically show a tesseract in motion, then it at least has the ability to display higher dimensional forms of art, because we aren't capable of physically reproducing a working tesseract in this dimension, but the computer can show us a functional tesseract. So if it can do that, I'm thinking it's all mathematics. Just apply the mathematics to it, and you're probably going to hear the whole depth of that particular piece of music done in a particular way that we're not going to be able to reproduce because we're not capable of playing our instruments in such a way, whatever that may sound like.
Well, I think when these technologies, whether it's in case you're talking about instruments or even a camera or computer, it will bring some sort of comfort to the few people that are going to really truly understand it. It's like nobody understands my skills, so let's hope a whole bunch of people make a computer so now I have my own personal doll to communicate with. It's still going to be lost to the masses.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, like the person that knows how to go out into the forest and carve out a nice drum or whatever are going to appreciate it. The rest of them are just going to know how to play with it. So now we can get it done with the laser technology. But the masses still aren't going to grasp each individual gifts. So I think it'll do more of separating us than uniting us. So I will have this version. Go ahead.
Or we will have quantum computer instruments, and we will have to learn how to master the quantum computer as a musical instrument to be able to play it so that we can continue playing these fourth, fifth, or higher states of music.
Probably access, but what I know of certain technology, like I'll give the drone as an example, they put it in a way where it becomes for the masses plug and play. A lot of it's just beyond most people's grasp. Dom, I know how to play with the drone. I know how to use a lot of its function, but I don't know how the board came to be. I don't really understand, how to fix it, even though some people will. So they'll make it very plug and play. A Tesla car would be that way. So these computers would be no different. It'd be plug and play. And all the
Let's
other
hope
part.
not.
What's that?
Let's hope not.
Well, it would be going across what it's been showing in history. But yeah, we can always, I guess, put hope on it, or maybe the human race or whatever's behind all of this will say, well, it's a shift happening now. It's not like we're learning all different new types of writing skills. A lot of them have been set for a long time. It's just people don't go out and learning the few that are out there, whether it's Chinese or, Asian, or, the way English writing is. They might make it different a little bit, but overall, they're not changing it. They're not making grand leaps. So I think with the computer, it'll be created, but it'll still be dumbed down for the masses.
Here would be my hope for it. Now, the Pyramid at Giza resonates at F sharp, but I know that there's hyperdimensional math that is written into the pyramids at Giza. Now, if there's hyperdimensional math hidden within that structure, it has to have an equivalent sound, because it's based off of the exact same thing that all things known are: numbers. So what does hyperdimensional math sound like? I would hope that a quantum computer could at least do that. Whether we recognize it as something pleasurable or not, well, that's yet to be determined. But the fact is that hyperdimensional math is in there. Just because it's not seen by the human eye, it has to be measured. The fact that the pyramid resonates at F sharp means that hyperdimensional math in there resonates at a particular number or tone or frequency or vibration.
And I guess actually it'll be like me and you. We're going for a drive. We're going to go to the mall. We're going to do an experiment. You're going to share with random people at a mall hyperdimensional math. Outside of, there's no headlights there, so you're going to get a lot of deer in the headlight look. Then we'll start talking to them about what they do know. How does that thing that you have in your hand called a cell phone work? They'll probably try to describe how to turn it on, how to flip on one of the apps. Is to know, how does it work? How does the Wi-Fi work with that? How do the boards work? How did it come to be? Now we're back to the hyperdimensional kind of math. It will be designed for the few. It could be millions of people, but it'll still be for the few. The rest of us, they'll put it in a form, plug and play.
Right.
No different than a car, no different than a radio, no different than electricity.
That's the difference between someone who uses a computer and someone who builds and programs them.
Yes, build and programs them, not just programs them, build and programs them. And hopefully they even know how to actually make their own way to understand how waves work, so they can even do their own Wi-Fi or tap into it, like you tap into an electrical line or whatever. But for the average, again, I hate using the word average, but it is average, to the unaware, average, whatever, even the ones that are aware, they're not actually going to understand how alchemy works, both physically in the material, let alone in the language. And that's the constant there. Now, to think that the masses are going to become enlightened, yeah, after you reduce the population, yeah, then you can say that statement. But don't think that 5, 6, or whatever amount of billions of people here are automatically going to become awake or aware. No, it doesn't work that way. And if it does, let's reduce it to a billion, then you can say that. But even that, I don't think so. Not everybody's going to be educated as a tenant to understand how it is to be a landlord, because then the system wouldn't work. I'm aware of it, but doesn't mean I want to be a landlord. Again, that's the difference. When people want to be the experiencer, they're going to lose majority of what being an observer is. The experience, you can only do so much. A guy that says he jumps out of a plane and said, I experienced it. I said, did you jump out of a plane, parachute everywhere? Well, no. So you had one fucking experience. Can you not have way more observations if through a lens of all these other people that have jumped out of a plane? Well, yes. The difference between the experiencer and the observer is the one that's self-absorbed. Whether they're aware of it or not, that's the energy that they're giving off. And until they become aware of that, they're not going to understand what know thyself. Who's the knower? Who's the self? The knower is the observer. Who's the self? The experiencer. What are they experiencing? Your waking state. Who are you communicating when you're asleep? Again, I'm just playing with different ideals here. People can fill in the blank. But for a lot of people, they're not even interested in that. I'm the body. Well, then who's speaking? Who runs it when you go to sleep? Who runs it if you go in a coma? Who runs it when you're in hypnosis? Bingo. You don't got a fucking clue what you're talking about, do you? And I'm not even talking about them talking out loud. I'm talking about that chatter going on in their heads.
Yeah, my shot in the dark would be an underlying involuntary program that was set in place to keep the body functioning during times of rest. It's the way I perceive it.
And you'll share that actually where other people say, well, I'm the body. I said, well, then who's speaking? Giving simple examples, you don't have to experience when you hear somebody say, well, somebody went in a coma. Well, who's running that body? What is Buddha talking about? Let me fast and meditate on that. Who's he talking to? Who's that silent? Peace be upon you. That's a constant being, always trying to communicate with the sleepies. Now, the other people try to explain it to the sleepies. I'm awake. The fact that you got to say you're awake tells me a lot. What are you awake for? Awake for fucking tea, coffee, catnip? What the fuck do you want next? Again, I'm being the idiot right now saying the way I'm saying it, but outside of that, it goes back to the access you've shared with me privately, the stuff that you're aware of or you've experienced. I'm like, fuck. I don't even know I could actually share that with other people. And I don't think I'm even the student for that kind of stuff. Where other people are going to pretend, I can go to school. It'll be easy to do that. I said, okay, so what? What hobby are you going to get when you go to university? Well, I'm going to become a doctor. What, to help the people that don't know how to take care of themselves or the ones that are taking care of themselves? Which one are you going to be a doctor for? You're going to go to university for what, 10 years and practice for another 20 years to get one degree? Good accomplishment. Settle for that fucking piece of paper that you're settling for. But then that's when the self-absorbed person will say to me, what about me? I said, how interesting, a self-absorbed person that talks nothing but about themselves, but yet fucking gets upset when somebody calls them out on it. They should have done that for themselves a long time ago. If we're in time again. Ago.
As a parable observation, it seems to be relevant to the state of these people who claim to have some higher perceived understanding of a particular thing, but yet their conduct is so atrocious in the way that they present themselves that they lose any credibility just by the way their demeanor is and the way they conduct themselves.
just responding to what Maggie said, and it's so true what he said too, where some people don't want to be maybe aware or woke. You know, like for me, I share just because I'm looking for fellow tribe members. You know, but for other people, even for me, what I share, I kind of treat it like it's a fool's journey, where it's so simple, or just, I can't even say it's simple, but it's a lot of effort, you know, to go get a regular job or a job and just keep doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for some sort of different outcome. No, it's the same outcome. You're working for fiat currency, you know, you're paying for other things, whether it's, you know, paying rent, paying for a mortgage, you know, paying property tax. It's always nice that people understand what property tax really is, opposed to what they've been told it is. You know, going to somebody else's grocery store, you know, and even the whole concept, could we have been tricked? And hey, we're going to make these species be inside of another form, and we're going to make sure that they need food and shelter for it. Oh, really? So I'm working for my own imprisonment.
Yeah, and sustaining it.
And sustaining it too, exactly. And then trying to say, well, I'm better off than those other people. You know, they're taking care of their dirty clothes, but you know, I'm better than them because I make mine look like with a little bling bling. Not ever questioning, where does all this technology come from? We could literally be living in a village, you know, the village movie kind of ideal, and outside sources are feeding it on a regular basis. You know, hey, let's throw in, give them a bone. Well, let's talk about flat earth and globes. Let's talk about wars going on. Let's talk about capitalism versus communism. There's your polarity stories that they're giving us. You know, you get the people that, hey, I don't agree, after it was safe to say, I don't agree with what happened between 2019 and 2021, but yet the same media is going to say, listen, everybody go outside, get your 3D glasses and look at the eclipse. Okay. Is there more to the story? You know, it'd be nice to say, okay, so why are you making it a point to tell everybody to go out and look at the eclipse? You know?
There was a channel, one of the more prominent watchdog channels for geoengineering and weather and anomalies in weather and just generalized weather. I'll think of the name of it here in a minute. Mr. MDB 333 does a lot of it too. But in the path that the eclipse took, there was an extreme amount of atmospheric injection spraying over those over where the crowds were in the trajectory of the eclipse. I thought that was interesting. They got saturated with something. So it made sense to me why they wanted everybody gathered together.
Mm-hmm. Whether it's energy harnessing or harvesting, but it probably directs the energy towards that point, you know, or those group of people. So that would serve, yes, let's go all out there. And to me, what they did was no different telling other people during that other pandemic thing, whatever, everybody go out and buy toilet paper. Those are the same folks. Those are the ones that, I can almost assure you, most of those people that went looking at it, they're the ones that go around professing, I didn't get the job. I said, okay, whatever. Do you wear a tie when you go to work? Well, yes. Do you wear one of those X's on the back of your jackets, you know, those construction workers? Well, yes. Do you wear high heels when you go to work? Yes. Do you see the program I'm talking about now? Well, there you go. People don't realize how many programs are running at any given moment. Just because a person becomes aware of one, I said, how do you not know you're not using another program to become aware of it? All indoctrination. Got to tell a whole bunch of people to wear a tie. And if you don't, you're not going to get that piece of paper. Religion's not telling you to do that. State's not telling you to do that. Commerce is telling you to do that. So when people are spending so much time saying, well, I don't agree with religions, I don't let them tell me what to do, I said, Aren't we using the technology right now? You know, and then people say shit like free energy. What the fuck are you talking about? Everything's coin operated. You want free energy? How does that look like? You're using the technology? Do you pay for your internet? Sure you do. What energy are you giving up to earn that piece of paper? Are you giving it freely or are you struggling with it? Which one is it?
Well, in my case, at a primitive level, it'd be struggling because I would have to scavenge wood, find a couple pieces of flint and some tinder, and work my ass off. But once it got going, as long as I fed it scavenged wood, that would be the extent of the energy applied.
Mm-hmm. True, Access. You know, but the thing is, a lot of stuff that we do in this particular civilization, it's like spinning a plate. Once you think you got something, no, you're still going to be paying taxes. Forget about your mortgage. You don't pay that anymore, no problem. But you're still going to be paying taxes. You're going to be paying for water. You're going to be paying for electricity. You're going to be paying for repairing the roof, especially if you're a homeowner. You're going to be paying for the fridge and stove. I said, so where the fuck do you think you're free? Please, give me an example. You know, outside of just saying the fucking word. I got a free will. Really. You value in a source, but yet you want to have your own free will. So what will are you going to give up? You know, again, it's always nice when they say the word free. It's like when they say the word secret. They didn't have enough balls to tell people this is ignorant information we're going to share with you, opposed to secret information. Why? Because most people are going to ignore that information. And if they do, they'll brag about it. Oh, I read the fucking book that said secret on it. I said, but did you really read it and comprehend the teachings? Or are you just going to tell me you know how to fucking read? It's back in the days, give me an X. We went from an oral fucking species to a written fucking species. People that, back in the days that didn't know how to write, they know how to speak. And what's more important, fucking reading or write or speaking? How hard do you have to fucking scribble on a piece of paper to make a sound?
Exactly.
That's how people are asleep. Well, Dom, I got all my information factual. Based on what? From a book. Did you experience that fucking, what it was written in a book? Did you observe it? Well, no. So then what the fuck are you doing? It's called parroting, and I fucking hate to insult a poor creature called a parrot. You're being human.
Well, that's why my observations of what we've been said about the Anunnaki and Sumeria and the King's List and the cuneiform tablets. I don't read cuneiform. There is slight evidence from, what I've seen, not personally, but the evidence that they presented. And I'm having a harder and harder time buying that bullshit. Why? Because that to me is just a sudden. It's a newer endeavor into a possibility, the same as religion.
Well, whether or not people can give a name to who they think gave us technology, we still have to acknowledge technology. So whether or not there's gods out there, or demigods, or Anunnakis, or Palladiums, or whatever, we still have to acknowledge that there is the sun and the moon up there. I don't know if that's fucking material or an image. There's other luminaries beyond that. We have bodies of water that, for whatever reason or another, does not go into what's called the earth. They have stories about manipulating the water. So we can still play with the premise that there's stuff here that we can use our senses, even though the senses could be misled. But I get it. People like to always, well, was it Jesus that wrote it kind of idea, opposed to no, what was written? Don't worry about who the fuck wrote it. But I get it. People that do worry about who wrote it are going to forget about what's the teachings. Now, if they're going to be honest with themselves, Dom, I know the teachings, but I don't apply it. Okay, but at least you're being honest with yourself. You're not being a hypocrite by saying, well, I do know what the teachings are. And what, you're going to lie to somebody and say you actually also practice it too? At least be honest. But that's where pride comes in. If I'm going to use another word, pride. They're not humble enough to say, yeah. So this way people can distinguish the difference of a person that's balanced, a person that's more hemispherical, a person that's more emotional, or a person that's just physical. It's always nice to meet a fellow being that actually has done the work and they're very harmonizing with themselves. I'm not, but I'm okay with that. And that's why I can fucking read people like a fucking book. Because if they're going to be full of fucking shit, I said, no problem. I'm already full of shit, so I'm going to feel you out. Now, they might get upset with me. I said, but then why haven't you done the work? Well, I'm spending too much time fucking being full of shit. Oh, okay, well, at least you have something to plant seeds in eventually. Because shit's good fertilizer.
Right? I mean, even as we're told, the Egyptian hieroglyphs, it wasn't until the Rosetta Stone was found that they could actually decipher some of the works that they had done, and they had to discard the biggest part of what they had previously done because it was off. Their interpretation was off. But the Rosetta Stone allowed them enough insight into the language to compare it to Greek, and I forget what the other language was, and suddenly it started making coherent sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, even that too, as a possibility here, access where let's give them a main language and then we'll scatter it into fucking puzzle pieces and then let them figure it out. Well, you're giving me only one language out of the many that are out there that you've scattered. So how the fuck am I going to solve the puzzle? We'll let you figure it out. Maybe you can figure it out through Latin or Germanic or English. Again, is this the game that we play with ourselves? We play the divide and conquer game. Hey, I will give them different dogmas, let them fight among themselves.
And that's what I'm afraid they've done with the whole Anunnaki uniform tablet thing. For those that were potentially swaying away from the Abrahamic religions and even those New Agers that are looking for some new kind of God, well, conveniently, these guys became prominent on the scene. And suddenly there's all these things being attributed to them. Well, if you go back to the Vedas, same shit. You go to Abrahamic religions, same shit. It just seems like the same shit and just a different label on it.
Yeah, again, whether or not those things exist or not, we can still take it based on us here, where just take one dogmatic religions, how they've used many different forms of it. Even Christianity has many versions of it. Muslims have it. Then the other types of teachings that people might associate to religion, but they're just teachings by themselves, whether it's the Hindus with the Bhagavad Gita or Buddhism. And then you have all the different secular groups, sheiks. So, and that's just religion. Start getting into state now. So how do we know which one is actually, or let alone how do we reform them all together if they're meant to be a puzzle put together? Or is that all just distractions? I'm going to go to heaven. Okay, so do you go to heaven in the physical form? And if you do, what age do you look like? Do you look like a young 20-year-old buck, or when you're 80 years old and you have one eye missing and you fucking got half your teeth out? Which one? Or are we all
always
go ahead. Go ahead.
Always like the ideal that what is after you devote yourself to this God your whole life, and you finally stand in before this God, and you find out that this God just really doesn't like you. Just really doesn't have any use for you and doesn't like you.
Or he says, okay, go in the waiting room, wait there a couple of generations. Or here's one that, no offense to the Muslims, but hey, you got to join the party with the rest of them. What are they really saying about women when you die, you'll have 7 virgins. So what's virgin men, virgin women? Look, what are we talking about here? And then if you're talking about women or girls, whatever you want to talk about it, is it implying that it's another man-made scripture? Could be. But I'm with you. I lean more towards the guys probably have no fucking concern about the human race. If anything else, the ones that have to rule over us probably lost in a card game. You deal with the humans for a while. What do you mean? You'll see in a bit. What do you mean? Because you're better off ruling the oceans and the trees and the ant kingdom than worry about the humans. Why? Because we made a boo boo with them. I say that jokingly as I'm in a human form.
But there's a profoundness to that irony. Even in the book that they study, it says that their God is not a recognizer of character. Well, what's that saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that he has more disdain for humans than he does a liking for them. So the odds of you being in front of this deity and finding out that he really just doesn't like you is very probable.
Mm-hmm. And here's the irony, Access. It presents, obviously I'm going hypothetical here, but it presents itself and say, okay, so you're a human, right? And you're getting upset because you think I disdain you. Well, how did you treat the other humans of your own species? Well, what did you do in the metaverse? Did you give the impression that you loved your fellow humans? Or did you actually have your own disdain towards them? I said, shouldn't I punish you the exact same way you fucking punish others? Shouldn't that be your reward? Now, somebody could say, yeah, but I treated humans really kind. I said, well, you're just you're just a unicorn then. I'll put you in the zoo. Again, it's always interesting where people expect a higher expectations from an unknown source, or in this case, for some people, their parents or their governments, but yet they never stop and look at themselves and said, would you do it? Now, some of them might say, yes. Would you do it for others? Thousands of them, millions of them. Would you take care of anybody outside of your own family? Why would I do that? Well, then why do you expect the fucking elites to do the same thing for you? This is the hypocrisy of most fucking people if they're honest with the self. But they're too busy fucking being proud or pride with the self. They're too busy serving the fucking self. Which is fine. But it'd be nice if they're at least honest with the self. Then they can start questioning it. If they want it, then they can probably rise up a little bit. Maybe even be a piece of shit better with the self, which would be okay. But for most people, no, they're just winging it.
Yep.
And then when somebody starts getting into these gang mentality, well, everybody's hating the government, everybody's loving the government. You pay people enough money, you'll see the self.
Mm-hmm.
How many zeros do you want at the end of that one? And then once we got that, then we know exactly what number to remove to fucking make you fucking kiss our ass, which is the 1. Convince them that you can own land, and then that's how you can enslave them, because then you can take it away from them. Give them the concept that they're free. I said, what's free? Freedom of speech? I thought we can just speak if we wanted to. What they're really saying is, we're just not going to beat the fucking crap out of you. But we could take everything else around you. Again, that's only going to convince somebody if they're attached to things. Are you attached to the ideal? Are you attached to the physical? Are you attached to your emotions? Why? Because if you're not, then you're not going to be disturbed one way or the other. Or you might turn around and say, well, thank you for calling me an idiot. Thank you for telling me I'm a nice person. Why? I'm consistent.
Indifferent.
Well, Yeah, there is indifference, but I think we're playing poker, but we're not telling people access what we have in our hands. We could be bluffing.
I did a little endeavor on that, using a particular individual that claims to be a lure master and has the facts on most of the personalities on the platforms we frequent. And I was not obligated to tell him the truth of the situation, just as he didn't feel obligated to find me relevant enough to be honest with me. And I, in even a joking manner, gave him information that was unfactual. And I watched him run from one side of the metaverse to the other, just barking these lies out, unfactual information that he never endeavored to check the facts on. And so he filled all these people's heads with something that he had been fed, refused to check the facts on, but because it benefited his plight, spread it everywhere. And I thought that was quite amusing.
They get paid to do it? Because the media does the same thing, but they get paid to do it.
No, I didn't get a fucking dime.
Well, hopefully he learned something from it, how easy, I get it, some people trust each other, but trusting one person is one thing, but to spread whatever they've heard from that person, that's another thing. How does it serve to share with a whole bunch of people? I get the factual part, but it reveals people, they gain reputation from it. That's what information does, whether in this case it's information via written work. Actually, can't even say it's information. It's just stuff that we pick up from things such as written work or oral speech. How do we know if it's true, let alone truth?
That's why I said information is a privilege, not a right. And I'm under no obligation to tell you whether to turn left to get to your destination or turn right. It's a courtesy. And if you can't extend to me a courtesy of being factual with me, then don't expect that courtesy back, because I'm not obligated to that.
That's true. That's true. You want obligation? Call it love. Do it with your kids. More times than not, it's obligation or duty, which is, it's a good learning curve. But when other people, when it serves for them, well, I'm counting on you. I'm like, when did I ever show you otherwise? Most people say words like, it's none of my business. Exactly. You're saying the right statement. Business. You don't get paid. So why would you want to do something that a police officer gets paid to do? It's always interesting when people make it a point to, uphold police officers. So what? Criminals don't have to uphold a certain policy? It's all about commerce. You want to win in court? Don't go to court. Settle out of court. Why? Because that court is about business. Same at the hospital. You really want to win at being healthy? Stay out of the hospital. You want to win at the casino? Stay out of the casino. It's a business there. People that think for some reason, but people do win at the casino. Yes, but are you going to be wise enough to realize they have some of their own winning there and they're laundering money? Every so often they'll get a gullible person like a 3-card ante and they'll let you win to give the average or the few masses the illusion that we're going to win. Okay. Then you're going to open up the game winning or losers. And there's going to be way more fucking losers than there's going to be winners. Same with wealth. There's going to be very few people that are going to be wealthy, and there's going to be a lot more people becoming poor. That's just the way the system is set up. Now, people might not agree with it. I said because you don't understand it. If you truly did understand it, you'd realize the word you use access is a word, indifference, but you might be aware of those systems and say, okay, I'm a fly on the wall. Yes, flies on the walls do not get involved in human affairs. They might bug humans, like angels and demons do, but once you call on a fly, that'll work for you. What do you mean? It means you're being some of my shit so you can reproduce. I say that jokingly, accent, but there's some validity to that.
Good. And as simplistic as it may come across, it's pretty profound.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't want profound. They don't want something profound. They just want it. This is the direction I'm going in down. I don't agree with certain systems. So can you guys give me more of the same old, same old? Oh, so you want to be more religious again. You want to go to a church so they can make you feel good. You can maybe go confess, maybe even pay for it and feel good. Okay. Well, why don't you just not confess anymore? Well, what's God going to think? I'm pretty sure you don't give a shit about God. But I go every Sunday. Yeah, you go every Sunday, what, once a day? 1 hour a day? Good for you. No different you. What part did you play in the state? I marked an X in a box. Okay. Well, what about in commerce? I work for money. I said, do you print the money? Well, no. Do you transfer the money to other? No. Did you digify money? No. So then what do? You just work for the fucking thing. Wear knee pads, give a knee to it. If they're being honest with themselves. I realize that when I go to work for people, they say, Dom, you work for me? I said, no, I work for fiat currency. And you're not going to be doing nothing for me until a week later after I work for you for 1 fucking week, and then you're going to pay me. So don't ever tell me that you ever do anything for me.
Nice.
Now, I might say that in a more polite way. And if I know the person, I might say, okay, but I'm not here to change their programs, but I'm showing my boundaries. But for other people, if I can't do that, I said, no, that's just an excuse at that point. You know that if you choose to do those things, you're going to have to deal with other things behind it. I don't want to be homeless. How do you not know you're already not homeless? You're just living in a fucking vessel. People aren't going to like me. Well, you're in good company. Most people that like you, they don't even understand you. So don't worry about fucking likes and dislikes. You know. But you know, actually, most people don't want to have that kind of conversation. They don't even want to hear that shit. What they want to hear is what the Kardashians are doing, what sporting team did this, or what war is going over here, or what are they fighting about on Metaverse. Well, he hurt my feelings. Really? Did he rape your wife? Did he sleep with your fucking kids? So why are you more concerned about your fucking moronic feelings or your how you think than about physical? Because most people are more caught up in the physical, so be honest with that. I want to say that actually because we've discussed about transhumanism. You know, it's like if there's ever a moment in human affairs or a human experience that you think they're disposable, yeah.
It's so true. I had a recent encounter with my mother and principles that I stood on. And because she was my mother, I kind of overlooked her exaggeration and complete misinformation about certain things pertaining to her life and my development growing up, that I just allowed her to get away with. Um, but as things became more pronounced in my environment and with myself, I realized that I wasn't doing her any favors by allowing her to believe in her own bullshit and delusions. And for me to be true to my nature and true to my words, even though she's my mother, I still have to treat her the same way. So I won't allow her to continue on with the lies and delusional states that she tries to project to keep herself from looking like a ravening piece of fucking worldly shit.
Yeah, it's always challenging when we have our attachments to people close to us.
It's a real test of someone's resolve.
Very true, Access. Yeah. For some of us and a lot of us, it still hurts, regardless if we kind of know what's best, for ourselves, let alone for others. But it's still challenging and it hurts.
Well, how could I be 100% convicted by this set of beliefs that I found to be beneficial when it comes to relaying truthful information and allowing her to get away with something that I am now convicted by. So for me to fully encompass that state, I cannot allow her to continue living in that state of delusion where I'm concerned, because I know the truth and I know better. Being convicted 100% by your endeavors, regardless of family, friend, or other.
Well, Access, I'm gonna be taking off soon. I gotta get my rest so I can play that game continuously. Even though I enjoy working with my buddies, but I don't have to, but to put one hand to another hand when it comes to fiat currency. So I'm off, Access. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Dom. I appreciate you showing up. Even our escapee guest, everyone in the chat, and I'm going to spend a moment after you go, following through with some information that I wish to share, and we'll see what happens from there. But thank you, Dom, and your appreciation, your participation is always appreciated.
Thank you. I'll hear you a little bit before I doze off on chat. Thanks, Access. Have a beautiful night, my friend. Or morning in this case.
You too, Dom. You too, Dom. Have a good day at work tomorrow. Okay. Before I get into my endeavors on the subject matter I had mentioned, I would like to play a song and get some refreshments real quick. And hopefully this won't take too long and it won't be too painful. But I do have some information that I would really like to share with you guys. Let's see if we can find this decent little pause that we get some refreshment. Well, quite odd. I thought I had loaded that on. There it is. Okay, let's get into this. I at one time started a small, um, uh, I use cult in a derogatory sense, almost humorously, but like-minded people who were working in energy and how these energies, when projected into the field, ether or uninfluenced particles, were able to be um, pulled into uh, this realm of existence. And for a better word, this reality, they would manifest. And I noticed that when I would use two or three people focused on this same objective and with the same focal point, that not only did it strengthen and intensify, but it quickened the effects to the point where we started working in larger groups and really was able to document projected change, and we kept track of it. And what procedures seemed to work better than others, and naturally, we had to weed out some weak links, some people that weren't as beneficial to the objective as others. And we really took it to a proficiency. And once we had achieved the endeavors that we were looking for, um, we kind of just kept the organization going, but we hadn't really pursued any endeavors because my endeavors took me elsewhere. That was into the realm of frequencies, um, development of frequencies, how we're affected by frequencies and environmental frequencies, as well as vibration and the energetic effects that they cause. Now, here recently, I've run into a situation where I'm finding people that have platforms um, are endeavoring into um, a dual state of nature. And the dual state of nature being them truly convicted by what their platform has to offer and what they're offering with their platform. So, being in this arena and knowing what I had to contribute and what, even with the frequency technology, I had contributed that had gone almost jokingly to the side, except for those who were at least intelligent enough to be concerned about these endeavors. I decided to pull members of this particular group, Cult of Access, back together to endeavor on influencing various platforms and directively sending a desired effect and outcome. In the past, this has always operated quite functionally, and I was able to go as far as with the group at one point in time to completely devoid a channel of coherent energy and we were able to displace the energy, and we were also able to place our influence, projected influence into this, and we were achieving the desired result, which was the complete removal of the channel. Over the course of, some were quicker than others, but it was by their own projection being used against them, almost like a mirror, that they were feeding their own demise of their channel. And after what I've encountered, which is completely taken me away from these channels by means of their behavior, I don't feel that that should go without at least me addressing it. One is because they used my topics and my research for their own. I don't know whether it was a malicious attempt to kick sand in my face by suddenly enveloping themselves into topics that they weren't even addressing until I addressed it. And then suddenly it's their new platform agenda. And I'm hearing my works and my words coming through. And then I started noticing the dismissive take that they were using when I would try and present different perspectives or understandings, and this seemed to be really humorous to them, to stifle my endeavor, and then for them to turn around and say that they offered a fair and equal platform. Well, I offer a fair and equal resistance to their platforms for conducting themselves in such a way. And this will be implemented by 3 different teams that will be working from 3 different positions to achieve 3 different states of desired effect. And as it progresses, I'll keep certain people informed and in the know, just to solidify the effects of what we do, and also to potentially give them the ability to utilize the same form and function that we've learned to use in the cult of Axis. And there are those that have seen this work in the past. There are those that have been victims to it. And there are those that I'm sure remember quite well the overall profound effect that it had. So prepare to face yourself in your own mirror of your own working. And if it be becoming, you will be eating your own shit. The same shit that comes out of your mouth. And let's hope for your sake it tastes just as good going back in as it did coming out. And I will endeavor further on this topic in future shows. But as for tonight, I think we had a pretty good show. Lots of information. Appreciate the chat. Appreciate the guests. And anybody that runs across this in the future, hopefully there's something beneficial, whether it's obvious at the moment or later on down the line. But I appreciate your attention, and I appreciate your participation in another Rattblood Radio. And this is Access Rattblood out.